should probably shut up and listen to him because he knows a lot more about this. He knows I don't know anything, so I'll learn whatever he has to teach me.
I wanted to ask you something because my career hasn't even remotely taken off, as you know, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it really clicked for me because we didn't bond a lot as a kid. Like, he really liked baseball, I liked basketball, and he could watch that with my brother, but baseball.
And I don't know, I was just thinking about it and I was wondering, I think the thing that could actually make me more unique and marketable is if I got a BBL. Would you be interested and okay with paying for that?
What's a BBL?
It's a Brazilian butt lift. There's a lot of anger in this crime. Double murder, double throat slit. This wasn't random. This wasn't insanity. It was deeply personal. Someone was very emotional about something. What? Well, here's a clue. Remember we said just how important time is, what an important clue time is, and why time provides such a vital perspective. Well, what about time in the context of Nick's age? Nick was 32 when this crime happened.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
What are you looking at? Huh?
We're looking at someone who is very emotional about something. Someone who was supposed to be Superman but was very downbeat and at the bottom, on the bottom rung in some ways. But what was he emotional about? Well, I've seen a lot of comments saying Nick Reiner was a psychopath, that he committed this crime allegedly because he felt nothing, which is, it seems to be the default setting when a lot of crimes are committed. I don't understand why this happened, so he must be a psychopath. I would wager it's entirely the opposite, that this crime was committed because someone was overwhelmed by their emotions. I also don't think the emotions were just anchored in the events of that night, that single kind of singularity. I think the events of that night, a party-ending humiliation in front of a whole bunch of people, parents coming down on him, confrontation, all of that forced him to face the music. But more than anything, it forced an extended holiday from reality to suddenly end. It brought that to a close. And now it's back to school, back to rehab, back to learning some lesson he thought was well behind him. I think a whole life filled with regret, disappointment, and failing to reach one's potential came home to roost that night. And you can see in pictures of Nick Reiner this year that he suddenly seems to lose the little bit of polish that he had. He's got a beard, he's dressing scruffy, he just looks miserable. You want to know why? Because he is miserable. Why is he miserable? Well, isn't it because everyone around him is really living their lives? Everyone around him is making something of their lives except him, and not just making something of their lives, doing so spectacularly. And he can't even drive a car. He doesn't even have a car. He's living with his parents, but he's also at their mercy.
What are you looking at, butthead?
So is there something to this idea of time, but when we turn that perspective towards Nick's age? Intertextually, it does seem like there's something there. Consider the following criminals. Scott Peterson, he was 30 when he murdered his pregnant wife. Chris Watts, 33 when he murdered his pregnant wife and both daughters. Brian Koberger, 28 when he committed quadruple murder. What was going on with these three very different men that was the same? Well, I'll tell you. All three of these men felt like they were trapped in their lives. They were kind of on a treadmill going nowhere. They were frustrated, probably sexually most of all, but they also felt like they could have been more. There could have been more than this humdrum. That can sometimes happen in your late 20s. Why? Because that's when the veil sort of lifts, doesn't it? I mean, when you have all this freedom and possibility around you, and that's when your life reveals itself and your potential shows itself. and other people and what they are doing with their life reveals itself as well. And then you can't help comparing yourself. You can't help seeing them disappearing into the distance. At the same time, your life, your dreams receding into the distance as well, with it things like hope. It's really the death of dreams. And some people seem to be getting what they want, even excelling, while others aren't and are actually losing.
I am fucked. 24 hours ago, man. It was hot. Now, I'm a cautionary tale. You see this jacket I'm wearing? You like it? Because I don't really need it. Because I'm cloaked in failure.
Often the first failures in life, the first losses in life, can feel like that is emblematic of your entire life. And young people often forget that you can reinvent your life and be sort of reborn and remake your identity several times in one lifetime. It doesn't just happen once. Of course, those early forays are crucial and critical to becoming who you are. And probably learning from your failures in the right way is also critical to becoming who you are, and indeed if you don't learn from them. And so when you're a young person at this sort of crossroads and you're seeing some people excelling, you start to feel, which one am I? Which side am I on? Am I with the winners or the losers? And the answer depends very much on things like work ethic, having a plan, and sometimes, often, when you're young, luck. But it can also depend on just your attitude. If you think of yourself as a loser, well, you will be. If you think of yourself as a winner, you can be. Of course, losers can't become winners if they believe that they are losers the whole time. Although places like Hollywood, I think you have the lottery of life favoring the young, and when it comes to looks, it can favor a lucky break or both. That discounts the fact that I think work ethic is also a factor there as well, amongst a lot of other factors. But it's very tempting to blame someone for why you're not getting the happily ever after that you deserve, whether you're in Hollywood or anywhere else. Whose fault is this, my lot in life right now? Whose fault is it?
But when you get on the field, it's all about what you didn't get, who's to blame, who underthrew the pass, who's got the contract you don't, who's not giving you your love. You know what? That is not what inspires people. That is not what inspires people.
And Nick's story, what is it called? Something about Charlie, being Charlie. That didn't inspire people as well. A story about a drug addict. The reality is, whoever you are to blame. And that stings. But you can also be to blame for your successes, and then that feels good. But as soon as you take on the blame, if you can face it, you can do something about it. If you can't, well, then you continue to give your power away. You continue to kick that can down the road. And you're giving your power away to others. Whoever you blame, you're giving them your power. And you end up waiting for life to throw you a bone. That's what Nick seemed to be waiting for, wasn't it?
What did you think was going to happen?
What did Nick think was going to happen? Was Daddy supposed to make another movie with him?
What are you looking at, Daddy-O?
Now, whether or not you have individuated compared to your peers, how much you have or haven't emerges in your late 20s or early 30s. And sometimes what you see in the mirror and out of the window of your car, the perspective you have about what you've become thus far, sometimes it's disappointing, even depressing. Often one has a desperate sense of failure, not just because of what you see in the mirror or what your parents think, but because of comparison. Because if life is a competition, maybe you're not second or third. Maybe you're not even somewhere in the middle. Maybe you're dead last. Maybe, like Nick, you're not even in the race. You're not even on the field.
What are you looking at?
And I can tell you, if you want to demotivate yourself as a YouTuber, go and look at other YouTubers who are doing much better than you are, perhaps with far less work and perhaps even far less intelligence. But in Nick's case, what are his siblings doing? What are they achieving compared to him? How about the Joneses? How about his friends from school? Worse, his enemies from school.
What are you looking at?
During your 30s, people become established in careers, marriages, or both, Well, Nick had neither, but what made it a nightmare was that he lived in a setting where celebrity careers were huge, huge bucks, and celebrity marriages were huge, and someone being in a relationship with someone else would make headlines. Meanwhile, what's happening with him? He is going steadily backwards, merging with the woodwork, just turning invisible. He's accelerating backwards in both areas, career and marriage.
You don't know me.
But that's not really the problem. Nick doesn't really know who he is because he hasn't proved himself, not to himself, not to anyone. Coming back to that example of intertextuality, Chris Watts, Scott Peterson, Koberger, you might say that's just a sample of 3. It means nothing. Actually, the overall statistics support this sample. According to Psychology Today, homicide fact, age matters. According to Psychology Today, most murderers are men close to 30 years of age, and I don't think that happens in a vacuum. Because what is happening, men are trying to become who they are. And as you approach 30, you reach some of those milestones, maybe the first, where you go, okay, so this is where I am now. And sometimes it looks good, and sometimes it looks very, very bad. And you don't want to be there. For Nick, when he hit 30, it was looking very, very bad, especially given the success of his parents, his father in particular, and the growing success of Jake and Romy. We've spoken about Romy's career, but of the 3 Reiner children, arguably Jake's career was taking off the most. Even in the most basic sense, Jake and Romy seem to have someone special in their lives as well, some romantic interest. Well, did Nick?
You don't know me. You don't know me.
Well, was Nick single because girls didn't know him or because they did? According to Psychology Today, the average age of homicide offenders fell from 29.6 years, that's almost 30, in 1980 to 26.4 years in 1994. But you can see it's on the upper end of 25 to 30. Actually, the data suggests that the most murderous age group is younger than 25. It's actually from teenagers to mid-20s. This in itself is an important clue. It's this age group when men have to emerge from adolescence, when they typically start to find love and test their power and find their power. They either find love or they fail to find love. They find a place in the world or they fail to find a place in the world. They establish and assert their power or they fail to do so. Has Nick ever found love? That in itself, just that area, can be quite a cross to bear. Graduating through one's youth, the best years of your life, alone. And when you see Nick in the aftermath to this crime, what is he doing? He's walking around the streets alone.
You know, that's a better question to ask Nick, because I don't know if I was as available as I might have been, but that's something that you could answer. I mean,
What was the question? Sorry.
he wanted to know if being involved in show business and all that took me away from you to any degree that
No.
Do you know what took everything away from Nick? Nick's decision to take drugs. Anyway, I'm not going to take it further than that, but I will be doing a part 2 to this episode where we'll deal with Nick Reiner's wake-up call. So look out for that. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the last days of 2025, and I'll see you guys next time.